Achyut and Mitra, are you able to hear my voice properly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tanvi, do you have any presentation ready today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Achyut, audio clear? Can we ask Tanvi to start her presentation now?
Yes, sir.
All right. Yes, Tanvi. So what is the presentation you have? And you can present to us now.
Sir, can I share my screen, sir?
Yes, you can share, and I have enabled. You can share.
Okay, sir.
So Mitra, after Tanvi's presentation, Achyut will make his presentation. And then you got to
Sir,
raise
one
question.
second, sir.
Yeah, take your time. Take it. No problem. So
Okay,
Mitra,
sir.
you will be questioning Tanvi and Achyut so that we can get a better scope of learning by way of question.
Okay, sir. Sir, you can my screen, sir. Good evening, all. I am Tanvi LB. Today, my presentation is about forts and palaces. What is fort? A fort is a strong building that is used for military defense. Now, I am going to give two examples of forts: Velu Fort and Jinji Fort. The Vel- this is the picture of Velu Fort. The Velu Fort is a 16th century fort situated in Vellore, Tamil Nadu. It was built by the kings of Vijayanagara. It is surrounded by a deep and wide moat which was thousands of crocodiles. This fort is a good example of military architecture. Inside the fort, there is a well-known temple called Jalakanteshwara Temple, a church, a mosque, a museum, and several government offices. Vellore has five important mahals: Hyder Mahal, Tipu Mahal, Begum Mahal, Candy Mahal, and Badusha Mahal. Jinji Fort. This is the picture of Jinji. This is the picture of Jinji Fort. The beautiful in Tamil Nadu. It located in Vijayapuram, Tamil Nadu. It is built across three hills. It is a good fort with many attractions like Kalyan Mahal, temples, Anekulam Pond, granaries, and a watchtower. Now we will see about palace. What is palace? A palace is a large house that is or was the home of a king or queen. Now I am going to give two examples of palaces: Tirumalai Nayakar Palace and Tamukam Palace. This is the picture of Tirumalai Nayakar Palace. The Tirumalai Nayakar Palace is the 17th century architecture, one of the most popular. It is in the city of Madurai. This is one of the two Tirupati Palace is well known for Jain palace. It is archaeological. It has an archaeological museum museum. The major attractions of this palace is the courtyard and the dancing hall. Tamukam Palace. This is the picture of Tamukam Palace. Tamukam Palace is the summer residence of Queen Rani Mangammal of Nayak dynasty. It is located in Madurai. Thank you for seeing my presentation, sir.
Very well done, Tanvi. Nice presentation about the fort and palaces. We really appreciate you for taking the effort. Good job. And now I have a couple of questions with regard to the presentation that you have made. This is your third or fourth presentation, and they are really good. I mean, this presentation is exclusively good with the given fact that you have taken an effort for preparing slides like Achyut does, like Aditya does. Now, my question is, you have shown these precious palaces and the forts which is considered to be the pride of Tamil Nadu. What do you think the current generation youngsters, teenagers and preteen people like you should do for spreading the popularity and the legend of these palaces? And how do you think the entire world shall know about the palace? And what is the effort an youngster should take for gaining the popularity of these precious spaces of our state? What do you think? Did you understand my question?
Yes,
Just give a try. I know that this is a tricky question and we need a lot of efforts to answer. Don't worry if your English is wrong. Just try to say the answer. I will catch up the things in mind. Come on. How can we spread the popularity or reputation of this? Maybe I'll ask the same question to Mitra. After that, you take some reference and try to answer, Tanvi.
okay, sir.
Okay, good. Mitra, you understood the question as a teenager, and you are in the 10th grade. And as a responsible teenager and a youngster, what do you think that Tanvi showed, the couple of palaces and the forts? What do you think an youngster or a teenager or a preteen should do or take as an effort to maximize the popularity of these legendary places?
Good evening, sir. Sir, so my opinion, sir, so now teenagers are mostly they're concentrated towards like speaking about the popularity of sports people, especially the football World Cup that happened recently, and also the T20 matches and all the international test matches that are going on. People are more concentrated and they're feeling it to be realistic when they speak about the popular sports heroes, sir, especially like Messi and Ronaldo. But there are so many things to speak apart from those. They are also very important because a young mind should be provided with all the information about sports too, because that provides them enthusiasm and also some knowledge. So at the same time, parallelly, whenever they are speaking with their friends about, there are two ways that I would like to recommend, sir. So whenever they are speaking with their friends or people or visitors, whomever it is concerned towards, whomever they are speaking with about general topics, they have to include these types of information, sir. Because like for example, we have so many advertisements in the recent days about tourist spots, because like we had this half yearly holidays recently, sir, and soon, like in 2 to 3 months, we'll be having the summer vacation where people would flog in towards going to tourist places. At that time, a lots of advertisements would flood in your phone, like, you want to go to some tourist place, these are some of the recommendations from like a private company, sir. Instead of saying that you could visit some beaches or something else, they could describe the architectural structure of these types of palace and forts. The images that Tanvi showed was really great. Like those were the architectural like determinants, which would never happen in these days. These days they have gone to advanced technology, sir. So when we want to speak about this architectural structure, they could emphasize on that when they speak generally. Like the teenagers, they speak a lot during their breaks or over phone and through smart social media. So not every time they need to speak about these types of things, but whenever they get to speak about the general things, sir, they could also speak about these types of words. And if they get a chance to, like, sometimes they get an opportunity to speak in competitions at their school, so they could emphasize on the importance of forts and how much forts are important to describe the like the infrastructure of the country, sir. So whenever they get a chance, because we should use the opportunities when it knocks your door. So whenever we get a chance to speak about and emphasize on those architectures, it is very great if we try to take some efforts to speak about that, sir.
Fantastic answer. I really appreciate you for thinking in a horizon of involving various things. Yes, you mentioned about people being very much passionate about sports, exclusively, games like cricket and soccer. That example was really good. But at the same time, you also mentioned and you also emphasized upon the point that the youngsters have to speak a lot about it, and they should have a proper interpersonal communication platforms to make the other people understand about this. Good, nice thinking. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, yeah, you're most welcome. And now, Tanvi, after listening to Mitra's answer, why don't you take a frame of reference and try to answer in your own way? Come on.
So, like in vacations, they can give advertisements about forts and palaces, sir, and they can describe the structure and architecture of forts and palaces. Then we can see that, and we will go in vacation to see that. Means many people will come visit the forts, and forts will be.
Nice answer. See, now you have caught up things on a right basis, and I am so happy. Good. These kind of thinking and these kind of common sense oriented thinking will make your thinking faculty grow, and you will become even more communicative. That is why I'm asking questions always after presentation. Nice answer, Tanvi. Very good. Yeah. Okay, now let's move on to Achyut Venkat, because Achyut has got a presentation open. And in this window, we still have about close to 26 minutes of time remaining. So Mitra and Tanvi, get ready to listen to Achyut's presentation. Yes, Achyut.
Okay, so today it's a little bit of an interesting topic that's not often discussed when it's about like world affairs. Like there's climate change, there's poverty, there's malnutrition, there's like all these big issues, but like one major issue that's not being talked about as much, but it's still big. And now many countries are implicitly doing it, like many government leaders are, but like many people don't notice. It's the population control. Well, and in which like is basically controlling the population, which like can actually have a major impact. So before I talk about what its main population control is, first look at the world population chart. You can see the growth in this population. So like in 1700, there's only 600 million people in the world. And then it steadily rises. It's increased to 1 billion by 1800s. And then it suddenly in the between 1900 and 2000, you can look at this growth here. Here it went from about 1.7, 1.8 billion to nearly 5.2 million. That's 3 times the growth in 1 century. So like that is a major thing. And right now we are about this graph was about 2019. We are now in the 8 billion mark right now. Recently, we reached it. So, like, we're around here. That's the 8 billion. And it's expected to grow to nearly 11 billion in 2100. So, like, that's another 3 billion people. And, like, many however, many of this growth, unlike in the 20th century, is not gonna be distributed evenly among the world. Like like in the world, like there's gonna be some countries we're seeing that are shrinking in population, some countries that are growing exceedingly in population, like in Africa. So like that's like the thing that's gonna affect the world, and it's causing some of these demographic changes and stuff. But like overall, the world population growth, it's you see about 3 billion here, 3 billion will be it. However, the rate it will grow will eventually slow down to 0.1% eventually. Actually, so like that's the thing there. And then so like that is so like what is population control? So like it's the practice of intentionally controlling the growth of a human population. So like it's been so like it's basically controls the growth rate by like limiting it or like through whatever means possible. Like they want to contain it into like a good spot. Like they want like some maybe some growth, but like not a lot growth. Especially, and like it depends on the country, like what the growth rate would be that it's ideal. Like for India, like they're trying to make it the birth rate like probably like 1 to 2 people, because like the India is facing up. India right now is going through a big population, and like more people may feel overwhelming, especially in a tight area. India is one of the most densely populated country is there, and like it's gonna be really crowded, and like that is the thing. However, for like other countries like the U like the like Nigeria, like the US stuff, they want more growth, and like even China now wants more growth after they did the policy. I'll talk about those later. So like that's like the thing. So like the growth rate, the level, it depends on which country you're talking about. So like that's like the thing. And then it has been done to animals and ecology for many years now, but like it's recently applied to humans. So like it's in back then, like typically they didn't, it wasn't too much done. It was done to mainly control farm animal amounts, and like they try to control it so like they can have cows can have enough grass to graze, and like in medieval Europe. So like that's like the thing they did in Europe and like stuff. They did it for centuries because they want to preserve like there's at least some good grass for the cows. However, However, it's still being done today to mainly control the ecology. So like in my state, for example, there's a lot of deer in the or and like there's always this food pyramid you may hear of. Like there you go from sun first to plant, and then plant to deer, and then like from deer to like something else that will hunt the deer. Like I think I don't have any major example right now, but like deer here. So like if let's say if the deer population increases, then like it will demand more plants, meaning its population will reduce. And like so like plants are really important again. And then like also, if the deer population increases, there will be more food for whoever predators the deer. So I'll just put predator of the deer, meaning like it eats deer. So like it will improve its population. So like it will mess up the ecology altogether. So like that's the reason why it's been done to animals for many years now to make sure like the ecology is stable. It's not necessarily to like that to be cruel. Like there's been instances of cruel cases to animals, though like it's also been they're doing this also on purpose to make sure they can like the ecology violence is there. So like that's like what the population control is for animals. However, for humans, it's ideas have been proposed since like the medieval era. However, it hasn't really been implemented till like after 1950s and 60s, and like many countries are looking at it only now right now. So like that is the thing. So like many countries are doing it now. So like that is what population control. And why are they doing population control? Is there's many things that could happen and because of it. And like it's been, I mean, and like we don't know like exactly, like it's a vague thing, and like many issues may affect these policies, that it couldn't just be population control, but like simulations and like experiments said it could reduce poverty, help the environment, give political stability, and reduce crime and malnutrition. So like it makes sense, all of these topics. So like reduce the poverty, like since there's a more, like if you have more people, like, and then like the national gross like the GDP or national gross domestic product remains the same, then like that's a, and like that means less money per person. So like if you have 100 people, well, and like you have, let's say, a 10 lakh, 10 crores, and like you want to distribute it among 100 people, it'll be, the 100 people will be much richer than let's say if you distribute the 10 crores among 1,000 people. So like that's like the idea there. It will reduce the poverty rate by like having more equal distribution there, and like it will help the environment. And like this is also common sense, like if more people means more energy, and like more energy means like probably non-renewables or sources of energy like oil and coal, and like those will affect, those negatively affect the environment. And like although like there's more advancements in green energy, like it will probably not be sustainable enough for the globe, at least until for at least some years now, till we get the technology level to have it better than and cheaper than the not non-renewable. So like it will help the environment if it's like that, and it will give political stability. So like that's like an overall thing because of like less poverty and like less better working conditions. Like if the population is happy, then like the politically it's more stable. Like that's like the idea there. Like in China, it works like that right now. Like it's a very stable, even though like it's a dictatorship, it's a very stable dictatorship in China. So like that's, and because of its population control there, like it was able to reduce the young population, as like not to it was able to control the young population there as well, which like gives like more meaning. Like China, like the young people, if you know, like they're the most protestive type, they're the most resistant to the new government. And however, if they lack the numbers, then like they just couldn't simply do it, especially against that. So like that's the thing. Like you're seeing many young activists going out now in the world, but like in China, they're getting even in China, like because of the lockdowns, they're having it, but they're not getting exactly successful. Like in 1989 Tiananmen Square, ever since then, China has been knowing that at the effect of young people, and like the population control will stabilize that number to make sure it's not too much. And like reduce crime and malnutrition. This comes all of these issues are related. So like poverty, if you reduce poverty, you will reduce crime, malnutrition, and many more bad stuff that could happen. So like it will help like water is a major problem in Chennai right now. Like if you have two more people, more water would be needed. So like if you control the population, you'll have more of these resources for everyone. That's like what the thing is. However, many people are now increasingly against population control. So like in the US especially, there's many people that are against it. And they bring up facts like reduce the labor force. So like labor force meaning like the people who are able to do labor and for this country, for our country, and like build stuff and contribute to our market. So like that will reduce because of that. Then like it will reduce the number of a certain ethnicity. So like ethnicity problems like all over. Or so like in the US, for example, like white people with European ancestry, they're actually starting to decline in population in the US because many people are having fewer children. However, many Hispanic and Mexican and like Black people, they're largely being more they're giving more births, and like they're increasing. So like many white people in the US are feeling like they're getting replaced by it because of that. It's a little bit of craziness, like kind of it's a it's hard to talk about. Like, I don't know exactly what it is. It's like it's a very complicated theory that like many people debunk. However, it's like it's there. Like the facts show like the that is happening. So like and like that and like it's in other countries like China and South Korea and Japan. They're all seeing their ethnic worries go down as their population hits peaks and starts going down. And like they're worried that they're losing their ethnicity to like other countries in the world. So like that's like the thing that's happening there. So like and it causes the population to age. Like Japan is the perfect example of that. So like for right now in 2050, the estimated already Japan has already the largest one of the largest aged population in the world. Population of 65 and plus is over 26% of the population. And so like income and like in the year and it's expected to grow to very high, close to like 45% by the time in 2050. So like nearly half the country would be aged 65 or up, which like although medical advances make the life expectancy longer, it will still be a major drag to the Japanese population. It's like they need to care for these people and like reduce and like it goes back to the idea of reducing the labor force because like there'll be less people to help take care of those elderly people. So like it's kind of like that. So like some say that immigration would help with this. However, then like this goes again with this number of certain ethnicity thing. It feels like the immigrants are trying will take over the population and then become the more dominating force of the population. So like that's like the kind of worry that so like right now in Russia, for example, like right now Christianity is slightly the more dominant religion in Russia. However, it's expected to close because of that, because like Russia's Christian population is having less children than the Muslim population. And like Muslim population, all most of its immigrants are coming from more Muslim countries. It's because like there's Russia's not getting really a lot of immigrants these days, but like it's coming from more Muslim country is a lot of these immigrants. So like in its neighborhood, Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan and like all those countries, they're all moved. There's what they're more of their immigrations coming. So like Muslims are expected to close the gap between Christians and like their that. So like that's like an example there in Russia. So like that. And like this is the fertility rate by country. So like this is a very interesting thing. Oops, sorry. This is a very interesting thing in here. So like it basically measures how many births per population. So like let's the US for example is at the rate of it's at green. So like it will be about 1.7 births to 1.9 births. Right? So like that's like the thing with the US right now. So like and like that's like the average number of birds being given right now. And like you can see like the major areas where there's more birds include all over here in Africa. That's like the major place. And then there's also country and then like the places with the least amount of birds is all over here and like and like in Russia and like also China, except North Korea, South Korea and Japan and like that. And like those are where the population declines are right now major. And like you can see why it is. So like this is these are all being more developed countries. So like many of these, there's some exceptions to the rule, but that's historical factors that I'll talk about. So like these are all more developed. You can see all these countries is developed, and then like less developed countries, you can see these are more least developed, and like there's a and like the most dangerous countries in the world right now, they're according to people like Afghanistan, like South Sudan, and like Somalia, and like the poorest countries like Chad and Central African Republic. These are all facing the most population growth. So like you're seeing the point by now. And like and like there's some other stuff that also affect this graph. Like there's some pretty high outliers. Like while India and Bangladesh are both in this area, in the relatively green zone, which like the world would say is ideal for a good growth, Pakistan is still not in that. Pakistan is growing significantly more. That's like something very that is something very interesting there. And like I don't know what's happening there, but like I don't know what it's about. It's a very interesting, even though like that there. So like it's like that overall. So like that's like the fertility rate and like yeah. So like and finally examples of population growth. I already briefed through some of it. So like China is like a major example here. So like in 1985, they started the one child policy and like it basically made people made parents only have one children per person per couple because like they're facing very big growth. Like you could see the Chinese growth, they were accelerating and like they were going big and they expected this to happen. And then like it all largely worked to help us. Like the growth started to slow and it started to peak around here. And like India right now recently took the #1 spot and like yeah, it's kind of like here right now. So it's kind of flattening out and then it will decline now. So like that's like the thing there. So like the one child policy worked, but like China is seeing like now that its working age population is going to decrease it's starting to it's now going now it's on the third child policy, meaning you can have three children and people. So like that's like one thing there in China that's like happening and like they're and like this is a worry for them, like less people to work here. Like unlike the USA, the US also similarly the main people, the white people, they've started to reduce in population. The US is largely, even though it's not a big growth rate, it's still relatively growing for some amount, by some amount into the 22nd century. And that's because the US is what it's compensating for the low fertility rate of white people. It's getting more of an immigrant. So like it's kind of balancing out. The immigrants are coming in. More immigrants are coming in from like especially like South America, Mexico, that area, and then like in Asia, like China, India, like those two are the most area common places. And US is will compensate the growth to there. And like the US will have more, even though the US will have a more aged population, it will have some decent amount of workers to take care. So the US is actually doing okay in this time in population control. And like India, however, like the US is built for like a nation of immigrants. So like immigration is built for the US and like that and like and it's not like other China is not a big place for immigrants. India is not a big place for immigrants. Nigeria is not a big place for immigrants. So like the US had that tool for immigrants and like they were and like China and India, Nigeria, they're all worried about the ethnic problems. Like they don't want too much one other group to dominate the population. So like that's like the thing there for that. So like that's like the issue there. Like India will go to next. Like India is like you can see in the graph, like it's going up relatively in the same pace as China. And then when China started to fall, India is continuing its growth. And like eventually, like in that it'll reach its peak here around 1.6 billion, they're saying. And earlier estimates showed higher, but like since like India is starting to look into like policies that would reduce the childbirth, like it's reducing it. It's reducing its childbirth pol it's reducing its childbirth overall and like it's causing that and like it's like India's there here and like it's starting and reach its peak and it'll start to decline like China because they're expecting India to be developed and like all the most of the power most of the people to now have like many people are getting good jobs now in India and like it's kind of starting to reduce it. So like that's like happening. South Korea not listed in the graph, however, is also like it's like China. It's like it was increasing rapidly. However, and then it started to have a major problem. And then like I saw this video yesterday on North Korea or South Korea. So and like South Korea has a military advantage over North Korea because it has more men, more young men to serve in combat than North Korea does. That's the reason why South Korea is having it. However, South Korea is expected to decline in population, and by 2050, 40% of the population would be aged, which means like it will be very big, and North Korea will largely remain the same in terms of like population, and it will remain that will have more young people to serve rather than South Korea in 2050. Like the young population will decrease in South Korea, which will be crazy for South Korea, and like many people fear that, and like South Korea needs like a worker thing. However, immigration is unlike like China, India, Nigeria is not gonna exactly work there in South Korea. So like that's like the thing there. So like South Korea is facing that population thing, and like the overall it's gonna cause North Korea to become a little more powerful in the coming years, in the coming decades, I should say, over South Korea. So like that's like the thing there about that conflict. It's a little interesting there. And Russia is another interesting one. It's the last one. So like Russia, it was like the population growth. So like it was growing modestly in world up to World War II. We'll call this World War II. And then like 25% of Russia's population declined. And like it's so staggering, even if you were a kid that was born in 1923, you had only a 20% chance of surviving by the end of World War II. So like that's a big 20% chance of survival if you're born in the year 1923. So like the young population took a hit there, and like those young people didn't give birth to anyone. So like that caused a major decline. And then afterwards it started agreeing, and then like the people that were supposed to be born here are not here, so like it's declined again, and they're not producing more children,
Right.
and then like that, and then like yeah, and it's like that, and it's going down overall Russia. So like that's like
Akshat,
yeah, it's
sorry
1 minute
for,
left.
sorry for the, yeah, 1 minute left. Sorry for the interruption. And Zoom has changed the scheme. Like we can open another window only after 4 minutes. So you guys can take a break for 4 minutes, and after 4 minutes, join the new window. Then we will continue with this particular slide. Achyut, Tanvi, and Mitra. Is that fine?
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Right. Take a breather, take a
Yes,
water
sir.
break or something, and join after 4 minutes.
Okay, sir.